Hey everybody, what's up? It's Friday, and that means it's Finish Strong Friday. I'm Trey Griggs, and you are here for episode 83 of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership. And again, I'm Trey Griggs. So glad that you are with us today. We got a great show for you today. But just before I do that, just let me remind you that it's Finish Strong Friday, everybody. So whatever you're doing today, give it all you got. Finish strong. That burger from the grill tonight's going to taste a little better if you give it all you got today. So make sure you finish strong. Also, if you wouldn't mind doing us a favor, go check us out at betaconsultinggroup.com. See how we're helping companies with their messaging, their branding, telling their story of their company and how they're impacting their customers. We'd love to work with you. So check us out at betaconsultinggroup.com. Also, there's going to be a big announcement next week on the website and on social media. So make sure that you are ready for that. We've got some good news coming up next week on Monday. So we're very excited to announce some new things that are happening here at Beta Consulting Group, which is awesome. Also, quick shout out to our sponsor, to TAFS. They're the good guys in freight factoring, and we want to make sure that we give them a shout out as well. So check them out at TAFS.com. They are helping carriers with their all their needs that they have on the road to stay out there and to be productive, cash flow management, discounts on tires, fuel, all those types of things. So check them out at TAFS.com or click on the link that Morgan's going to drop into the show today. That'll take you right to my landing page so they know that I sent you. Also, because it's Friday, everybody, keep in mind that we have episode 112 of Word on the Street that's going to be at noon today. We've got Steve Cox of Steam Logistics on the show, along with the street crew. We're going to be talking about non-competes and non-solicits and all those things that are kind of hot topics right now in transportation. So make sure you check us out at noon Central, right here on LinkedIn Live, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter for episode 112 of The Word on the Street, powered by Beta Consulting Group. So a lot of good things coming down the pipeline, and we're so glad that you joined us today. Let us know where you're coming from out there when you're watching, and give us some comments today. Okay, I'm excited for today's guest. I can't believe we've had an amazing week of shows. Go and check those out on demand throughout the week. To go back and look at the first one this week with Robert Bain, the strongest man in freight, Cam Robertson from 3PL Systems. Great conversation on Tuesday. Love that one. Probably one of my favorites so far this week with Adam Wingfield, who's all about educating drivers and carriers. That was episode 81 on Wednesday. Yesterday, it wasn't Dan Deegan. It was actually DJ Flores, who filled in for Dan, who had to step out. That was an awesome conversation with DJ. We talked about door-to-door sales, which was fun. And today, I'm very excited to bring on somebody who is becoming a friend of mine, somebody I just recently met. In fact, today is our first in-person, well, not in-person, but actual conversation. And we're going to learn some really cool things about this guy. So everybody, please welcome to the show, my friend, Nate Schutz. Nate, what's up, man?
Good morning, my friend. Nice to finally get a chance to do this and see where this goes.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I remember I've been following you on LinkedIn. I've been kind of watching what you're doing, and you had a post once that I read that I was like, man, this guy's sharp. I would love to get a chance to connect with this guy. So if people are wondering the value of putting yourself out there and creating content, stuff like this happens. You just never know who you're going to meet, and it's valuable for both parties, hopefully. So I'm glad that you're on the show, man. Where are you coming from?
I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Minneapolis, beautiful area, especially in the summer.
For
Man,
about
nice in
9
the
weeks.
summer.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You guys are already counting down, right? You probably got the countdown to when fall's going to be back and the lakes
This
are
is
going
when
to
we tune up our snow blowers and snowmobiles.
That's right. Do the maintenance, get them on there and get ready to go, which is awesome. All right. So for those who may not know who you are and what you do, give us a little 30-second rundown of who Nate Schutz is and what's going on.
Sure. So I am the VP of Fulfillment and Logistics for Blue Dot, who's a modern furniture designer and retailer based in Minneapolis, and am honored and privileged to lead our team here, handling all the fulfillment and logistics operations for the company. And then, in addition to that, I run a podcast with the FreightWaves team called The Bootstrapper's Guide to Logistics, where we share founder stories in logistics of those who have just taken the leap, started a business, and didn't take any outside funding. It's been a fun ride so far. To echo your comment, I would say social media is so much more powerful than most people take advantage of. Literally in the last 3 weeks, I have talked to people in Chile and the UK, pretty much every state in the country, Hong Kong, Canada. There are so many amazing, inspiring people out there in the logistics world in such an exciting time. And they're one message away, whether it's on Twitter and you send them, you comment on a post, or you send them a DM, or you just message somebody on LinkedIn. People are so much more willing to connect and have deep, meaningful conversations, but somebody has to act. Somebody has to take that first step. And I'm not shy about that kind of stuff. I love meeting new people, and it's been a great run so far. We're 6 months in. We just recorded our 23rd or 24th episode, and we've got a lot of runway ahead of us still.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And you said there that, social media is more powerful than people give it credit for, something along those lines. I couldn't agree more with that. As I'm, continuing to put content out there and podcasts and all those types of things, my brain just keeps kind of going, wow, there's more. There's more. Like the rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper in terms of what you can do and the power of social media today for good, that people can really create opportunities for themselves, for their company, just by putting themselves out there, by creating a post, by creating a podcast, all those types of things. It's just incredibly powerful. And you guys are taking advantage of that. Before we go any further, how can people learn about Blue Dot? Because I saw the website and there's some really cool stuff on there. Really, really cool stuff on there.
Blue Dot is BLUDOT.com. We have 10 stores around the country and more coming. A really
Do
healthy.
you have one in St. Louis yet?
We
St.
do
Louis.
not.
Oh, come on. We need to get a St. Louis, another Midwest store.
I'll talk to somebody. I'll see what we can do for you, Trey.
Please do. Yeah. So bluedot.com without the E.
Without the E, and very successful growing company founded by a handful of friends who were college buddies and were into art and sculpture, architecture and design, and decided one day that they wanted to start a furniture company. And so they started drawing on butcher paper, just coming up with ideas for different furniture types and prototypes. And 25 years later, instant overnight success, 2.5 decades in the making, and really exciting times ahead for the business.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And do they have those butcher paper designs framed anywhere? That would be cool.
They do, maybe not in a frame, but they've done a wonderful job of archiving from the very beginning the origins of the company and handwritten notes and journals that got turned into a book a few years ago, because the
Nice.
history of the company is so rich that you don't want to forget it, you don't want to lose it, and fans and customers of the company want to stay connected, and so having that emotional attachment or that connection to the history of a company and the founders themselves is a powerful tool.
Yeah, that's so wise. It's like when you walk into the headquarters of an office and you see like the collage of history on the wall, and you kind of see how everything happened, and putting it in a book. And I think you said something really powerful there that a lot of people don't necessarily recognize, and that is the emotional connection that you want to create with a customer, or with a prospect. That emotional connection, which could be a personalization, like having a face to a brand. It could be experiences or moments, like historical moments in the journey. But what a great job you guys have done of capturing that in order to kind of keep your customers connected to the story and feeling like they're a part of the story in a powerful way.
Unquestionably, they are. We have once a year a swap meet where people can submit a potential trade of literally anything for anything in the catalog. And we had one gentleman who submitted a proposal that he would write the company a letter every single day for a year in exchange for a rug. And it sounds really simple, but by the time you got a few weeks in, the letters were very personal. He was sharing, kind of his life story and what he and his family were going through, and developed a relationship with our founder. And another gentleman and his son made a barbed wire replica of a chair. To a T, it's exactly the replica of one of our award-winning chairs. It's sitting in the front, and every so often, and it's real barbed wire, and every so often somebody goes up and tries to sit in it. And it only lasts a split second before they realize this was a horrible idea.
That might impact the insurance policy a little bit. Having that share, you
Perhaps.
have to put some barriers around it, saying this, don't touch, just look, don't
Get your
touch.
tetanus shot.
That's right. But that's cool though. Like that's a way to connect the customers with the story and connect them with the brand
For
in
sure.
a powerful way, in a creative way. And I love that. That was such a great story. That's so cool. So everybody check out bluedot.com. That's kind of hard to say, actually. Bluedot.com.
It gets easier with time. Just keep repeating it for us,
keep
Trey,
saying
every
it.
day.
We may have to talk about that. We'll have to figure that out. There's some real estate here on the screen, that we could potentially work with. But no, that's a really cool story. And again, that emotionalization, that emotional connection to a brand. When you look at other brands out there that have done a great job of that, I mean, it's no wonder, companies like Apple, people became like cultic for Apple. Like, they drank the Kool-Aid is what they said. Oh, you drank the Kool-Aid for Apple. You're, only Apple. And I'm one those guys for sure. But I felt like I was kind of a part of that story. Like I was in the in crowd, or like Chick-fil-A is a great brand as
Mm.
well, where you just, you feel like, you're part of something really cool whenever you eat at Chick-fil-A or go there. Just there's just these brands that have done a really good job of making that emotional connection, and it's powerful. It's just
It
something
is.
really, really powerful about that. Talk a little bit about your journey into, you've been in logistics a long time. I think you started at CH Robinson back in '02,
I
if I
did.
remember correctly. Is that right?
I did. Before that, I went to school for logistics. I was one of the first people to
Yeah,
graduate with a logistics degree,
I was gonna say,
which
yeah, that hasn't been around a while.
means I did this on purpose. So whatever
You're-
most people fall into it. So whatever it says about my judgment,
you-
wide-eyed, I looked at it and said, "Yep, that's what I want to do."
You're one of the few that didn't kind of fall into this or kind of accidentally find your way into it, like most of us who are in it and can't get out, but don't really want to. It's a great industry. Oh, and Robert Bain says that green techs are gross. I agree with you, Robert, on that. Every time I see green techs, I'm like, really? Oh man, gotta work on them. So I can appreciate that. But yeah, so you started logistics. You chose to be. What was it about logistics back in the day that you're like, this is fascinating. This is really interesting. I think I'd want to devote my life to this.
I remember sitting in an economics class when I think I was a sophomore in college, and a gentleman came in and explained that they were starting this new program, and he gave a couple of examples about what supply chain was and how logistics operated. And I'm a very visual thinker, and I have a high spatial intelligence, so I have the ability to think in three dimensions and see objects move. And as he was describing it, I saw it in my mind's eye as this puzzle that would never be complete. And it just tapped into something inside of me. I literally walked out of that class, went up 2 floors, and changed my major on the spot.
Really?
And
Wow, that's
it was just
powerful.
one of those moments where I knew I had found, if I'm a fish, I'm a freshwater fish, and I felt like I was maybe swimming in brackish or salt water. And then I found logistics, and it was, no, this is exactly where I'm meant to be. And I'm still not bored. The puzzle still isn't solved. Just getting more and more
Just gets
complex,
deeper.
and
Right,
half the pieces are
right.
missing right now, but
Right.
that's life.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, a puzzle that's never finished, which, I love that analogy because truly, isn't that what life is all about? I mean, we're never finished. Like, we never make it in any aspect of our life. We're never a good enough husband or wife that we don't need to keep working at it. We're never, smart enough that we don't need to keep learning. We're never fit enough that we need to stop working out. Like, that's a really great analogy for life, that a puzzle that's never finished. And logistics is definitely that to a T. And it's only getting more complex, I think. Like we're trying to simplify things a little bit, but because it's becoming global, it's just adding layers onto the puzzle. And how do these things all work together and interact with one another? It's crazy. It's fascinating, but it's crazy.
I agree, and I think the idea that we can solve all of these challenges with technology is admirable. I don't think it's possible. At the end of the day, this technology that we're seeing, really take hold right now is still in its infancy. It's maybe 20 years old, or even younger. But global trade has been happening for thousands of years without the internet, without computers and GPS tracking, and any of those tools. And relationships still are what make it work. Even if we had all the tools in perfect visibility and perfect coordination, you're still working with somebody else on the other side of the world, or on the other side of the desk. And that's the other part that's I find fascinating right now, because my network is growing so quickly with the founders in the logistics world, that while they're tackling some of the most interesting problems in the industry, they're all still just normal people. They're not superstars. They may have some rare abilities. A few of them, might have a particular insight into one, piece of technology, or an area of the industry, but they're still just regular people who go home to their families at night and struggle turning it off, because they're so passionate about what they do. But they're the ones going out and trying to solve it. And how can you not be inspired by that?
Yeah, no, I love it, and they're betting on themselves. They're putting their fortunes and their time and their reputation on the lines, and now as a founder myself, I'm feeling that. Like I'm starting to really appreciate that fully, and understand it a little bit differently. And thank you, Christy and Bill, for being at the show. Christy Knichels here, Bill Hale, great people. Thanks for watching the show today. Appreciate having you guys on. But to go back to what you said about the relationship aspect of logistics, I think that's true in life as well. Because you think about this, I don't want to fly a plane if there's not a human pilot in it.
Mm.
I don't want to have a surgery if there's not a human doctor like doing it or overseeing it. At least there's definitely a place for technology, and it's enhanced our lives very richly, and it will continue to do so and make life even more convenient, more comfortable, easier to navigate. But at the same time, there is that human element that's never going to go away, and for us to even wish it away or to think it's going to go away, I think is really folly. It's foolish to do that. And so to me, I love those especially the technology companies and founders who really want to mesh the two. They want to mesh the human experience with the technology, and the ones who do that, I think, are really going to win. The ones that you create a TMS that makes it easier for somebody to do their job, to book a load, to track a load, all those types of things. But still, at the end of the day, they have a relationship with their customer. It doesn't replace that. It's not going to replace that. And so that's a really cool distinction that you found, just in terms of technology and logistics in particular, in your role in what you do. So have you been disappointed at all by choosing logistics? Have there been any moments where you're like, not sure? Or are you still like, man, this is it, man. I love this.
I still love this. I could do this every day happily until I'm 75 years old. My wife has said repeatedly, please don't ever retire because you never stop thinking. And if I have free time, which there's not a lot of these days, but whenever I do have it, she looks at me and says, "You're still thinking about work, or you're still thinking about bootstrap founders. You're still doing something in your mind. I can see it on your face." So yeah, maybe someday I'll retire and do something different. But truthfully, I love work. Work is,
Yeah.
I think, a good thing. If it's a drag for you, um, that's unfortunate. I hope everybody can find something that gives them that fire that I have, for what I do. I mean, maybe it's driving a truck, maybe it's working in a school, maybe it's being in government, or anything. But I think we all have a place where that capitalizes on the best of our strengths and abilities and is aligned with our values and the purpose that we believe we have for our lives. And then naturally, it has to also, the market needs to value it, and it has to add value to, some part of our economy or other people's lives. And if you can find that mix, man, why would you ever stop working?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a blessing to find a job that you would do for free, or you would do. You're not looking forward to just retirement and playing golf every day. Then God bless the people that do that. That's not. I don't feel that way about myself either. I definitely want to play as much golf as I can, no joke. But I want to do it like while I'm building, because I think when you find your place in life from a work perspective, there's a few things better, because we spend more time working than anything else in our life.
Hmm.
That takes up more time than anything else in our lives. When we find that spot where we're like, this is my lane, this is my jam, that changes the whole equation. When I was a high school physics teacher, I felt that way. I mean, I could not wait to get up and go to school and teach physics. I loved it. It was just my spot. And I actually feel that way now with Beta Consulting Group. I kind of struggled to get to this point, but I've had that same feeling of, I can't wait to get up and see what's going to happen today. Who I'm going to talk to today? What conversations are going to happen today? What are we going to do for clients today? Whatever it is, it's such a great feeling. And when you feel that way, you're not thinking about retirement. You're not thinking about Friday. You're thinking about Monday. Like, I can't wait to get back at it on Monday. It's a blessing and a curse, no doubt, with family. I struggle to turn it off on vacation.
Mm.
That's been the hardest part, because I do think about it as well. And it's good to turn it off. But man, like when you love what you're doing, it's such a blessing. I feel like it's such a blessing, because we have to work. I mean, there's no way around that. We
We
have to
do.
work. We might as well do something we love.
Well, and I warned you that I was going to flip the script on you and try to be the host and ask questions, because what
You
I do
did.
is
Go right ahead.
I get to
We'll just put you over
spend.
here and just let you be the
There
host
we
now. So go
go.
right ahead.
Well,
Now you
well,
can just.
welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Nate Schutz. This is Standing Out. Our guest today is Trey Giggs. Trey, I've got a couple of questions for you. So you are a bootstrapped logistics founder. So first, I got to have you on my show.
Please, I'd
Um,
love that.
Second, I feel like we're almost twins in a sense. I love golf and I love playing guitar. You've definitely got better hair than I do.
Yeah, we got to work on the
Um,
hair. Yeah, it's there. We'll work on it. We got it.
there's
We'll
not much
gel.
left. I've got, it's getting close to its expiration date. But as a founder, what's the hardest thing you've ever overcome in your life?
Man, as a founder, I mean, I've only been a founder for 5 months, so that's that. I'm gonna go back to other things
Hmm.
as well. I think the hardest thing for me to overcome has been the wiring that I received in my brain as a child, and I don't think that we talk about this enough.
Mm.
We grow up from ages 5 to about 15. That's kind of when the wiring is established in our brain, how we view the world, how we view ourselves, what we think we can do, and what we end up loving and things like that. And the interesting thing about that is that we have no choice in terms of what that wiring actually is. We don't have a choice over the influences in our life, the parents that we have, the people that they allow into our lives, the experiences that they give us. They're very limited in terms of choice for us. Yet that wiring establishes who we are for the rest of our adult lives.
Mm.
And so I was somebody who always struggled with confidence, and which is a it sounds weird because I've been a very successful person in life in terms of like sports. I played, varsity basketball for 2 years in high school as a 5'8" white guy. So that's a pretty good accomplishment. Um, I was on all-star teams growing up. I was able to sing and play music and public speak. And from the outside, it looked like I was a confident person because of some
Mm.
of these experiences. But on the inside, I always felt like I was getting lucky. I couldn't ask a girl out in high school or college unless I knew it was a yes.
Mm.
I didn't bet on myself very often because I just felt like I was getting lucky. I didn't have that truly justifiable confidence, even though I had the success that should lead to that. I didn't have it. And it took me into my late 20s and early 30s to understand why. And the reason's really simple. My dad was a great dad. He tried his best, but he had a bad childhood. He did not get to
Mm.
play sports and do things as a child. So he made sure that I got to play sports. But what he did, unfortunately, is he kind of lived through me vicariously, and he needed that approval in his life. And so when I would have success, he would always point that success and attribute it back to him.
Mm.
Like if I scored some points in basketball, it's like, man, I'm glad I taught you how to shoot. Who taught you how to shoot? Those kind of little comments, those little jabs, right? And it wasn't mean spirited. I think he just needed approval in his life.
Mm.
But if I did something poorly, like if I had a bunch of turnovers in a basketball game, he would say, "Man, you need to
That
work
was
on your
you.
ball handling. You need to do that." And if you extrapolate that over a 10 to 15-year period, what you end up with is somebody who anytime something good happens, they don't think it's because of them. And anytime something bad happens, they do think it's because of them. So I grew up thinking, gosh, I must be getting lucky where I'm on the all-star team because my dad's a coach, or like there's no other point guards out there, so I guess they put me out there. Like I just didn't believe that it was because of me, and it took me understanding the wiring that I was given from age 5 to 15, 16 years old, 20 years old, and to start to overcome that and say, you know what, the reason why I played college basketball was because I was in the gym, because I was hitting the shots, because I was
Mm.
putting in the time and the work. The reason why I played college golf was because I was out there on the range. I was hitting the shots. I was putting myself in competition and figuring out how to do it. And I had to start to give myself a little credit in a healthy way and say, no, you're good at public speaking because you're willing to put yourself out there and practice and mess up. And so that's why you've become good at public speaking. And it was that transformation, which was a long process, where I started to build some justifiable confidence and believe in myself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe in you? I
Mm.
mean, you have to believe in yourself. And that was the biggest thing that I've overcome that's led me to this point in my journey where I got to a point where I said, you know what, I'm going to start this company and we're going to see what happens. And I'm not afraid to start. But that was a huge barrier to overcome, was the wiring that I was given as a child. And I think we're all given wiring, and we have to be empathetic towards other people. Like, why are people a certain way? Why are people prone to be angry? Well, maybe they
Mm.
grew up in an environment where that was how it was, and that's the wiring, and it's hard for them to overcome it. And so it's much easier for me to be empathetic towards people and how they are and what maybe they struggle with, because a lot of it probably came from when they were a kid and they didn't have a choice over that. And now as adults, we got to figure out how to overcome that. So that's probably the biggest thing I've had to overcome.
Well, one, I love the self-awareness that you show. The ability to go deep internally is, I believe, a real distinguishing difference between those who overcome some of those issues versus those who don't. And if I can offer you a little bit more encouragement, having now spoken with countless founders and you now having those experiences and applying it in your business as you go forward, one, you're 100% not alone. There are so many other people in your shoes or even further along in their journey that talk about feeling like an imposter still at times, or feeling isolated and there's so much pressure on them as the figurehead of a business with a ton of people depending on them for their livelihoods, and trying to shape and create some kind of a community for founders like that has started to emerge as the next iteration of what we're actually working on, that founders can put more pressure on themselves than anybody. You're already high performing, you're high achieving, and that doesn't stop just because you now have your own business. And so um, perhaps I'll be able to connect you with a few other folks that might be able to offer you that encouragement when you find that your confidence is flagging a bit, or you encounter a situation you haven't encountered before, because there's no way we can get through this alone. How much time do we have?
Yeah, no, we've got about 5 more minutes left, but no, I think that's really great, and I would love to have those introductions. I've learned recently that leadership can be lonely, but only if you allow it to be lonely. Like, it really is a team
Mhm.
sport, and the people that you surround yourself with really make all the difference in the world. And so, finding other CEOs or finding other founders who have been in those situations has been actually really helpful for me.
Mm.
People like Dusty Holcomb at Red Stack Fulfillment, Shannon Breen at Freightvana, and there's so many others. Doug Clark down in Dallas, a good friend of mine who owns his own consulting company. Like, there have been so many people that have poured into me and just given me confidence. And there's a little trick that I do too. I'll share this real quick. One thing I learned was the value of self-talk. What we say to ourselves is more important than what anybody else says to us, and we
Yes.
talk to ourselves more than anybody else talks to us all throughout the day, we can't escape our self-talk. And so it's really important what we are saying to ourselves. And so what I do now when I wake up and I feel overwhelmed, because there are days when you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can handle this. Like, this is a lot. Is I'll walk into the bathroom, I'll look myself in the mirror, eye to eye, as if I'm somebody else. I'll look myself in the mirror eye to eye, and I'll say, no, you got this. You can do this. Go get him. And then I walk out and I never think of it again. I just start working. I just get to action, because you can act your way into feelings much easier than you can feel your way into actions. And so I'll literally just say, hey, you got this. Go get it. And then I walk out and I start working. And it's amazing how much that actually gets me over that hump of fear, or just stress and anxiety. And once you start getting into the game that day, those things start to kind of subside and go away, because you're just starting to tackle problems one at a time, and eventually you knock them out. And some of them might be tomorrow or the next week, but it just helps to tell myself, no, you got this. You're okay. You got it. Go get them. And that's made all the difference in the world for me.
Very well said, Trey. Last year, my wife and I took our 4 kids on a family trip to Arizona, and we found a little river that had cliffs that you could jump off of, and they're some were 5 feet and 10 feet, all the way up to
Yeah,
30
yeah.
or 40 feet. And my oldest son Isaiah went all the way to the very highest one, which is probably 40 feet,
Wow,
and
that's a jump.
just did a backflip, and no fear whatsoever. He just went for it. My other daughter, Ruby, who's a few years younger, went all the way to the top with him, but she wasn't quite sure about this. And so he actually sat next to her on this rock ledge, and they talked about it for easily 10 minutes as she worked up the courage to jump. And then she stood on the edge, and eventually she jumped. And down on the ground level, there's a few dozen parents, and everybody clapped and cheered. You could see the fear being overcome in the spot, and my oldest son kind of helping her through that. There was a third girl, though, that was the same age as my daughter, and she went all the way to the top, and she couldn't do it. She just, no matter what, she sat up there for probably an hour and wouldn't jump. And then she moved down to a ledge that was maybe 15 feet, and my daughter went down and sat next to her and talked to her easily for a half an hour, but she still couldn't jump. And it was getting towards the end of the day, and we packed up and we were getting ready to leave, and this young lady went all the way down to no more than 5 feet off of the water. This is just like jumping off of a diving board,
Yeah.
but she couldn't do it. She was so
Mm,
paralyzed by fear
mm.
that we stood there on the side just watching, hoping for her to jump, and we ended up leaving, and she never jumped. And so I picture her in the back of my head sometimes, never having taken the leap because she couldn't get over that fear.
Mm.
And kind of our mission with the Bootstrappers Guide to Logistics is to help encourage others to take the leap. You just took that leap yourself, and now there's somebody else behind you that needs to work up the courage. And I hope they reach out to you also and say, Trey, how did you do it? I want to do the same thing. And you can talk through it. And maybe it's a 5-foot ledge, or maybe it's a 40-foot ledge. I don't know what it is for that person, but that is such an inspiring, for me, story, because I got to see it with my own eyes, play out over a couple of hours with my kids. And now I get to be in a space talking to founders and would-be founders who are all wanting to do the same thing. And yeah, I could do this for the rest of my life.
Man, what an amazing story. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, because this didn't happen right away for me either. It took a while. It took me watching people like Chris Jolly and Brent Orsuga and others that, are further down the path than I am, but they were willing to take that jump. They were taking to take the leap. And it just took me a little while to get there. But I mean, I'm telling you, I wish I would have done it years ago. But everything happens in due time for a reason. And I'm more than excited to help other people and inspire, hopefully, other people, and just share my story to encourage them. So if anybody's listening out there and they're thinking about starting something, they got a vision and a passion and dream that they can't get rid of, don't be afraid to take the leap, because it is totally worth it. It's hard. You learn a ton of stuff. It's humbling. But man, it's exciting. It's incredibly exciting. And thanks for turning the script there on me and, asking the questions. Well done. I knew that was probably coming, but I appreciate you doing that. And more than anything, Nate, really appreciate you being on the show today. Definitely have to have you back, man, for sure. We have more to talk about. This goes by so fast, but I hope you'll come back and see us again soon.
Thank you for the invite, Trey. It's great to meet you.
Absolutely. And everybody else out there for watching, thanks so much for your comments, for watching. It's great to see people like Bill Hell, who I haven't talked to in a while. JJ Jones, thanks for being a part as well today. Make sure you come back on Monday. We've got a great show on Monday. Very excited about this. We're going to have my good friend Brent Orsuga from Pinnacle Growth Advisors. He just did a 16-trip journey. We're going to talk about it on Monday. And also make sure you come back today at noon for Word on the Street. We're going to have a great chat as well. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you on future episodes of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, leadership, powered by Beta Consulting Group. You guys have an awesome weekend. We'll talk to you soon.